Hello everyone, and thanks for being the survivors in this almost last presentation. Um, Today I'm gonna show you the newest feature about the MAS Builder module. It's a module that is originally created by Acsone about 3 years ago. It is now part of the OCA modules, and I'm really glad that we have quite a lot of contributors to this module now. So, what does it do? MIS stands for Management Information System, and this module implements a class of reports, of tabular reports, where you have in rows key performance indicators, and then in column you have mainly time periods. So typical indicators can be your revenue, some profit, some solvability ratio, a number of employees, whatever you imagine. And then in the columns, you compute those indicators for different time periods, like the current month, previous year, and so on. Part of the new feature is that now you can also configure the column to display not only different periods, but also different data sources. And a data source can be, by default, the data source is the current data, and mostly the current accounting data. But you can also use different data sources, such as the budget, which is the main example of this presentation, but also an alternative data source, something that look like account move line, but that you compute with SQL view. And I'll show an example. You can also add columns that are comparisons between other columns, like doing the difference of two values or doing a percentage comparison. If you want to compare the revenue compared to last year, you can do that. And also some columns that are similar to comparison, but can be, for instance, the difference of two columns, like the budget minus the actual is your available. So you can add such kinds of columns. So I show you some examples of reports that you can do. So this is a P&L and a balance sheet. Actually, the Luxembourg model. So where you see on rows, you have the expense and revenue, different kinds. And then you have the value for 2013, 2014, and then the difference in percentage between the two. The same for the balance sheet. Another example is something that one of our customers actually did himself. He just took the module and then all the formulas and the computation, he did it himself. It's showing for a retail shop, showing the revenue for each day, the number of orders, the average orders, and things like that, compared for today and the 5 previous days, current week compared to previous week, current months compared to previous months. This is another example. It's a kind of cash flow statement where you start with your cash balance at the beginning of the month, and then you have the cash in entries, different type of cash income, and then the cash out entries. You have the salaries, taxes, suppliers, and so on. Then you have the total cash out and the cash balance at the end of the month that is pulled over for the next month, and so on for 12 months. That's another example. The major feature of the module and the main one is that it is user configurable. It is anyone who take a bit of time to understand the principle and then is a bit familiar with Excel formulas can build such kind of report himself. And actually, most of our customers do their report themselves. It's really fast, and especially when you work on accounting data, it refreshes instantly even on million lines databases. There is this concept of report template, so you can define the KPIs once, and then use the same KPI to report on different time periods or different companies, and create several instances of the same report. there is this comparison feature. You can configure the styles yourself. So you see here those colors, the fonts in bold and so on. You can configure it yourself, and those are preserved when you export to PDF or Excel. You get the exact same presentation. There is a drill down, so when you click on a cell, you get the detail of the data that ended up with that value. And then there is this new budgeting feature that I will show you. And there is an API for developers. It's not yet very much documented, but there are examples in the test suite. So you can actually use the computations made by the report to do something else with it. And I give you an idea of what you can do at the end. But typically what we do is that we have implemented for Luxembourg, the XML export of the P&L and balance sheets that companies must send to the administration each year. Actually, it's a MIS report template, so they can preview it. But then there is a small wizard that uses the API to get the data and convert it to XML and export it. So you get the preview and the export in the official format. And then at the code sprint at the beginning of the week, we worked on multi-currency and multi-company. So that is, I'm preparing a new branch for version 3.1. So in the coming week, you can expect to get multi-company, multi-currency consolidation support. You will get built-in analytic filters and also extended account selector, but I'll give more precision about it later. So I do a small demo. So when you install the module, you get in the accounting configuration menu. By the way, it's on enterprise, but it works on the community version 2 and version 9 and 10. Version 8 works too, and very well, but it's a bit less features. So the first thing you have in the configuration menu, you have the styles. That's a bit easy part. And then you can then create your templates in the configuration part. And here, sorry, I started to create a template to show a use case where we want to show the expense budget, in the end, the actuals, and the available amount. And so I start to create KPIs with here 3 types of expenses. And for each one, I select some accounts. So you see here for the equipment line, the expression we have here is the accounting balance, the variation of the accounting balance over the period for these 2 accounts, this 21-22 and in 10-11-20. So take the balance for these 2 accounts over the period. The other one is the balance for 1 account, and this one is the balance for several groups of accounts where we use the account prefixes. So all accounts starting by 2110 and so on will be part of these calculations, as well as these other 2 groups of accounts. Okay. Then I can. There is some help available in line. So here you have an explanation of the types of formula you can do. So I show you the balance, but you can also use the credits, the debits. You can have the initial balance, the ending balance at the end of the period, and you can even add additional filters on the accounting moves. Like in this example here, I show that I filter on accounts starting with 55, but on top of that, I filter on one specific journal. So those are the examples. So there's a bit explanation here on the types of formula you can do. But also those formulas can be any kind of Python expression that works on the result of the other formulas. So for instance, here you see I've given a variable name to each KPI, like other equip and so on. So I just add a simple one, which is the total of the 3. like this. So I give it a friendly name, then the total. Value type is numeric. When we compare them, we say I want to compare the percent in percentage and so on. Can give a style to the total. The style, you can look at it. It's where we say it will be text color, white, and some background color and bold. And then the expression, I type this simply like this: x plus equip plus other. All right. So that's a simple report with four KPI, 3 KPI, and the fourth one, which is the sum of the other 3. Then I come to the report section, and I create a report. And I use this report I just configured, this template I just configured. I say I report on all entries. And then the simplest way to use it is say, I want to report on just one time period. So in this case, I report for October. I save. Then I have my preview button. And I get this view of the data. As you see in rows, my 3 KPIs. And then the values there. Nice thing is that you get the detail for each account automatically. And then you have the drill down. So if I click here, I see the list of move lines that's behind. You can also show another one, so there is a bit more. All right. You see the color are preserved and so on. I can export to Excel. And I get the data. And this is actually actual number, so I can do calculation in Excel on top of that. Is high fidelity export to Excel. Then I continue with this this report. Let me make it a bit more sophisticated. I will add 3 columns for 3 different months or 2 different months. So I say this column actually is the current month, and I say it's the period relative to the current day. So I will say this means the current month. So we just say we're working on months, and I can say offset 0, duration 1. So that means I get October. I can also say I want months minus 1. So it say, okay, this is previous months. I can do that previous day, previous week, next week, if you want, current year, and so on. So I add a column, and I add another one, so previous months, current months, like this. Right? And so when I preview, I get those 2 columns. Right? Also, the drill down is still there, so still easy. And then I create a budget. And a budget, if you see the template configuration we had here, you see that some KPIs are marked as budgetable. This means that we can input budget items for those KPI. The last one is not budgetable because it's just a sum of the other 3. So there's no need to budget it. It will be computed automatically. So three budgetable items. So I create a budget. I select on which template I want to budget, because I budget on any KPI, so I need to get a list of KPI I can budget on. And then I can say I want to budget my budget to cover this year. So like this, a budget from January to December. Save. Then I can fill in my budget item. You can import that with Excel, of course. And so I say this is the budget for, I make it very simple and create one budget for the whole year. So I say I budget 100,000 for the whole year, and I give my budget for my 3 KPIs, like this. And the last one. You normally prepare that in Excel or whatever, and then you import. Like this. And now I get back to my report, and I say, okay, I add a column to my report, which is the budget. And instead of saying that this column works on the actual data, I will select as a data source that budget that I just created. So I select Miss Budget as a data source, and then I select my budget here. This is the only one I have. I could have several budgets, like a revised budget, the initial budget, and so on. And then my budget, I will say, okay, you've seen my the other two columns, current months and previous months. So I display the budget for these 2 months at once. So the offset is -1. So we start previous months and get a duration of 2 months. So you see this column will concern from September and October. Save. I just order it a little bit. Then I preview. You see here I have this budget column, and those figures, I can click on them to get the detail behind. So that budget figure comes from this 25,000 that was for the whole year. Since I'm reporting for 2 months, it's took the pro rata value for the 2 months. And you can budget on any period you want. You can budget by months, by quarter, whatever, and then report on any other period. So if you budget by months or budget by quarter and then takes four months, it will take 1 quarter plus pro rata 1 month of the other quarter, and it will adjust that automatically. And also, depending on the type of value, you can indicate that for some KPIs, you must adjust pro rata like that. But for some other one, like if you budget on a number of employees, and if you say for this month I expect 10 employees, for this other month I expect 12 employees, if you report on 2 months, you will not sum them, otherwise it's no meaning. You will take the weighted average and say for those 2 months I've foreseen 11 employees. So you can do that too. Okay, so you have the drill down on the budget. And then you can add a column that is the comparison. So I come back to the settings and I say my available amount is a sum. And so this column is budget plus minus previous months minus current months. Save. You preview that, and you see I say budget -4 minus 944, give you the available amount according to your budget. All right. And the last thing I want to show you is that there is another very interesting data source that involves a very little bit of development, but it's quite easy. And it's a data source which is actually an alternative view on move lines. So the main data comes from accounting lines, but any view, any model that you can create that has debit, credit, date, and account fields, you can use it to report on that. And a typical example is you want to say, this report is nice. You have your budget and then the expense you have in accounting. But in between, you have purchase orders that you have sent to your customers, and they are not yet in your accounting. And that's very important too. Otherwise, you overspent in the meantime. So you can create a SQL view, and I published this demo module, which is the purchase order lines that have no invoice yet, plus the draft invoice. If you create a SQL view like that, you have all your committed purchase, everything you have sent to your customers, but are not in your accounting yet. And so it's very easy. Committed purchases. So you see it's an alternative view on move lines. Instead of taking the journal item, I take this model that I've created. It's a simple view model. You also give it the time period. Save. Up. And then I will adapt my available to say budget minus committed purchase minus current and previous months. A little bit of ordering. Put it here. No, at the end. Committed purchase there. Save. And if I preview, committed purchase is empty at the moment. So I will go to the purchase module. Where is it? Purchase. I create a purchase order. I add an item. Save. I confirm this order. And if I come back to yeah, should be good. Confirm this order. I see my purchase order that's appearing here. And now if I receive my products, I create an invoice. Okay, that's good. I validate it. I validate the invoice, and now if I refresh my report, you see it's empty here, but it's come in the actual column, and the available has changed. I'm way over budget, never mind. So that's a very easy way to report on non-accounting data. And one thing you could do, for instance, is create a view that is a forecast of your spending. So you can do some cash flow forecast just by doing such kind of view yourself. It's difficult to make a standard module for that, but because it very much depends on how you compute or how you forecast your cash. But as long as you can express that in a view that has date, debit, credit, and account, it's very easy to do. And there is the drill down too on the alternative views. So if I take this one, I confirm it, I refresh. I can drill down here too. So I can drill down to my view and see, okay, this commitment comes from this purchase order, and then go back to it, view it. And so I think this is it. I published the slide with a couple of screenshots, so you can remember it. And I'm available for questions. Yes? I'm sorry, I didn't really. Okay. Added compared to what? Because I don't know your other software, of course, but I think the main feature is that you can really configure yourself what matters to you in each report. That's the most important part. As you see, it's very easy to configure the report yourself, and you get a real-time view also on your data. As soon as you process your purchase and invoice regularly, you get really a real-time view on your business with this. Okay, does that answer your question? Yeah. Yes. The access rights, yes. By default, it's the advisor roles that can configure templates, and accountants can view the reports. But actually, all this is based on the Odoo ORM, so we are totally respecting the record rules that are defined in Odoo. Yes. Yeah, I see. I think you can easily add a field, for instance, that say to which group this report is made for, and then create a record rules that links the reports to the group. It's very easy to do. You can do that with the studio, for instance, or manually with a small field you had to do that. It's probably the easiest. Yeah. Yes. This is not using the analytic budget. Okay, it it's a there are similarities, of course, but this goes further because in standard Odoo the budget are based on the budget position are based on accounts only. Here you can budget on anything. Of course, my example is pure accounting, but if your KPIs that is the number of employees, you can budget on that too if you want. And regarding analytics, I have not shown it in the demo, but if you enable analytic, there is an analytic filter that appears, so you can in the view of the report. I show you in the example. So when you preview the report, here on the top left, you get a combo box with the list of analytic accounts, and you can just select on which analytic account you want to display the report for. And we have done for some customer a system where the analytics is actually the departments, and so they can give these reports to their department manager, so they have a real-time view on their budget and actual expenses. And in the combo box, they only see the department which they are responsible for, and with an additional record rules on the move lines, they only see the accounting data that's for them and not to one of the other departments. And so those department managers get really a real-time view on their budget and consumption. Yeah. Last question, maybe? Yeah. Um, what the question is there any dashboard? So what you can do um, is add the reports to the general dashboard of Odoo. Yeah, that's you can do. There are also some thinking of doing some charts about that. There was a pull request with doing a prototype of charting. What I would like to do is display some kind of sparkle line also on the. So when you have a report over several months or years, you can show a small trend line on the left. That would be a nice addition. I think there is no open issue about that. It's in. Other questions? No? Thank you very much, Dan.